presenter for today's second Q&A session with Shani Naidu. Shani is a registered accounting and tax professional, compliance consultant, business development strategist for Dial-A-Mula. Shani has led a highly acclaimed career spanning over 20 years. She has been on the cover of SA Profile magazine and featured in the Black Business Quarterly magazine. Her advice is highly sought after in the business arena. Welcome, Shani. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
The last time round, we spoke to the analogy of a business being likened to that of a fruit tree. We spoke about the germination of a business concept, the initial growth phase, the establishment of a root system, and finally, the pruning and the bearing of fruit. Today, I'd like to use that same analogy to discuss the next important topic. Why is access to markets important for a business?
Thank you for that, Lee. Access to markets, a very critical component to every business. Doesn't matter whether you're large, small, or extra large or micro. Access to markets is a vital component to exposing yourself as a business owner, as a business. In a country like South Africa, where competition is rife every day, there are hundreds of competitors every day striving to achieve that ultimate goal of selling their product, and every business is a competitor to its neighbor in every way, every day. So competition is tight. Access to markets to business becomes a problem in that not every business has the financial capacity or the leverage to enable it to access the market. So hence, being very strategic about your business, your product and your services, and joining forces with other businesses becomes important in your business networking strategy, because that is how smaller businesses can allow themselves to gain access to markets that they otherwise would not have access to.
So I think the key component of what you just said, Shani, is that exposing yourself to access to markets as a precursor is probably one of the most important things. Could you give us a bit of advice on how to go about doing that?
Sure. Access to markets in the general sense, as everyone understands, you do marketing, you do advertising, you have social media marketing, you have advertising campaigns, you've got email marketing. Some people have video shots that are played, they are advertising on billboards. That is how you access markets in the traditional sense. But in the not so traditional sense, access to markets can take on a very different role. And that means by leveraging connections with other businesses who already have access into the bigger market space is a different way of accessing markets for a smaller business. But before a business can do that, they have to be very sure about who they are, their identity. Because if you're going to join forces with another business who already has access to markets, you must remember that business prides itself already on what it does in its product base and in its customer base. And if you're going to join a business to gain access to markets through their leveraging, then your business has better be damn good, compliant, and aligned in all business aspects that you related to, so that that business can identify with the potential that you have and see you as a value add to bring onto their team and allow you the exposure that they are getting.
And that makes sense. Thank you for that. Over the past 2 years, we've dealt with the COVID pandemic. Obviously, that has restricted access to markets. Could you please advise how SMMEs can overcome that obstacle?
COVID pandemic, everyone's worst nightmare, every business owner's worst nightmare, but a living nightmare for all of us every day. Businesses, small and large, across the board, cannot begin to explain the financial devastation that their businesses have suffered, that their employees have suffered to this day. It is in most cases irrevocable damage that will last for many years to come. Access to markets in this regard becomes more difficult than it ever was before. This is where the smart thinker comes into play. This is where the strategic thinker comes into play. This is where ingenuity comes into play. So business owners need to adjust their mindset in a considerable way, in a level from functioning in survival mode to a level of what else can I do? How can I overcome this? There must be another way. Who can I turn to for help? What leverages are available to me? That type of questioning will allow your mind to think very differently than thinking in the survival mode that most businesses are currently functioning in. So what I mean when I say functioning in survival mode means pretty much a business is functioning with blinkers on. They're only seeing one way, and that's the way that they're in. The doom and gloom is all they know. They're living, eat, breathing doom and gloom. A dramatic change in mindset is what's required in order to enable a business to see itself in a different space and to see how it can possibly continue to operate with other businesses by realigning its resources and leveraging those resources. So it is no longer functioning possibly as a standalone business, but look at doing joint ventures, JVs, amalgamations, associations, those type of things. Because for the current situation we're in, that may be a good stepping stone for accessing markets. And to be participating in roadshows like this one, the SMME Virtual Roadshow. This is an ideal platform for businesses to showcase who they are, what they can deliver, and what they are bringing to the market in terms of solution providers. But these are one of the access points in gaining access to markets.
And lastly, Shani, what is your opinion on the current state of business failures and the lack of constructive strategic support to the SME sector?
That's a vital question, Lee. I'm glad you asked that question. Statistically, the failure rate of South African businesses is extremely high. Year on year, there are hundreds of companies being deregistered on CIPC, that is the company's intellectual property database. And for various reasons, businesses close for various reasons. Some reasons are silly reasons, non-compliance, and that is really something that should not close a business. But it is there. So, pandemic season, access to markets, difficult, high contributory factor to business closing, not failing, closing. There's a big difference between a business failing and a business being forced to close. So some businesses will fail as a result of the business concept just not being viable. Some business will fail because there's not sufficient capital injection to sustain the rollout of that product or service or whatever it is. And that's where the business fails. But where a business closes down, that is something else. Here, businesses are closing as a result of the pandemic. So it is an external factor that has severely impacted the operational functionality and sustainability of a business, and it has no choice but to close. That is different. But nonetheless, they both mean that business no longer exists or cannot continue. And there are various survival strategies for that can come into play. But in most cases, if a business has failed, it means there is also no longer any capital available to sustain that business, to breathe new life into it. And in most cases, failing businesses have come up and start up as a result of savings or retirement money or family money that has been pumped into their business, or a business loan that can now no longer be repaid. So dire financial liabilities remain after businesses have closed, failed and closed to continue. For the businesses who have closed as a result of COVID, that is going to have dire consequences for many years to come, because those businesses have been financially depleted as a result of the pandemic. And those businesses' financial resources are no longer available as a result of the pandemic, because the pandemic has far-reaching consequences to financial service providers, to banks, to financiers, and they have all limited and changed their vetting criteria for extending financial assistance. So it's got a spinning effect spiraling effect rather, from the top down. So the impact at the bottom is extensively great.
So in short, Shani, what do we do?
There is no hard and fast solution for this. At the end of the day, a business has got to relook at its business structure, has got to relook at its business plan, has got to relook the business product and services that it is currently providing. Because with the pandemic, one reality that does come out to play is that what you did previously, you can no longer do going forward. That same methodology is applied to the products and services that were once given before, months back, last year even, that now are no longer applicable. They have to be remodeled, reworked. In some cases, the entire business plan needs to be reworked because it's no longer sustainable for the current position that the business is in as a result of the COVID pandemic. So there is a lot of reworking, a lot of mindset change, a lot of re-strategizing that needs to take place. A good piece of advice is to talk to a business rescue practitioner. And it is always good to seek advice from a business rescue practitioner, especially in these type of circumstances, because business rescue practitioners have outlook is to turn the business around. It is not to shut the business down. So the thinking and the approach to their business is very different.
Yes.
There's a lot of re-energizing, re-strategizing that's involved. And the way I approach my clients who are seeking this type of assistance, because I'm also have a master's in neuro-linguistic programming, I apply a lot of neuroscience methodology in the application of reworking the business owner's mindset and the values of the business to rework that entire business to make it functional. So I apply a very different approach. But a business can be restructured, it can be reworked, it can be redeveloped, it can be re-engineered. So what we do in my company called SME Warrior, we do the re-engineering of businesses.
Thank you, Shani. Those are very practical suggestions for re-engineering a business during these times. With that, viewers, we have come to the end of our Q&A with Shani. Thank you, Shani, for your time and your valuable insights. We greatly appreciate it. Viewers, please tune in again for our next topic, training and skills development.
Thank you, Lee.